Hello and welcome to Pulse Check with Archer Nursing, where nursing comes to life. In this podcast, you give us 15 minutes of your day, and we'll take one complicated nursing topic and make it easy. Ready for nursing to be fun? Hello, everyone. I'm Morgan, and this week we have a special episode on prepping for finals. They are coming at us fast and furious. They will be here before we know it. So I want to talk to you about my tips, what I have always done through my BSN, through my DNP, for every exam I've ever taken that actually works. What actually works and why, and how can you just take some real deal advice, put it into practice right now so that finals are not so bad, not so stressful, and you also pass with flying colors. I have 3 key pieces of advice for you. I'm going to kind of tell you how I put it into practice, etc., and answer some questions we've gotten from the audience. So if you're ready, let's jump in. My first takeaway and piece of advice for you is that you need to start earlier than you probably think you do. I'm going to label this piece of advice: if you're early, you're on time. Okay. So in my experience, you need 2 to 3 weeks of prep before a midterm or a final, any of those major benchmark exams. Now, sometimes other exams are still going on 2 to 3 weeks before your final. And I have definitely made the mistake of okay, I can't start studying for this final until my last normal exam is done, which is usually, if generous, a week before your final. So then that gives me a week to study for my final. That is not enough time. All right. You are going to have to start while other stuff is still going on. For my type A brain, that always felt a little icky. I didn't love that. But once I forced myself to get in that habit, I noticed a major improvement. I think there's a couple of reasons here, honestly, guys. So the first is your brain has got to hear, process, and use a piece of information on average 5 to 7 times before it gets in your long-term memory. So if you're only giving yourself a week to study for your final, there is no way you're going through information the number of times that you have to be to actually putting it in your long-term memory. Now you might be like, Morgan, it doesn't need to be in my long-term memory. This is just for a final next week and then I can move on. No, because then you're going to have your NCLEX and then you're going to go be a new grad nurse where you're going to have to actually know these things. So we have got to get in the habit of doing the hard work now and getting this info into long-term memory, which de facto means we have to start early. If you're early, you're on time. Okay. There is the additional benefit that if you start studying for your final prior to that last normal exam or assignment being done, you are scaffolding the content naturally. So what I mean by that is that you are studying multiple things in short chunks at the same time. And that is another great way to get your brain to process info and actually get it into that long-term memory. Okay. We do not have the luxury of just studying cardiac and then taking a cardiac test. And then we're going to just study respiratory and then do a respiratory test. That's not how it works in real life. This stuff all works together. It's messy. So you gotta get in the habit of starting to study early. And that's going to mean multiple subjects are running concurrently, going on at the same time. So that's my rule 1. If you're early, you're on time. Start with at least 2 to 3 weeks before that major exam. Okay, so then tip 2 for Morgan's final study plan is the more specific, the better. Okay, I'm going to call this one specific equals success. So what I want you to do is, first of all, start with the end in sight. Write out everything you need to know for this exam. I personally always went module by module. So let's say, for example, my final exam is going to have 6 modules on it, whatever that number may be. I'm then going to look, okay, how long until this exam? Let's say we have 2 weeks. That means I need to do 3 modules per week, or basically 1 module is going to get 2 days. So I'm going to look at my calendar and say Monday, Tuesday, I'm doing module 1. Wednesday, Thursday, I'm going to do module 2, and so on and so forth. And I'm really going to block out my calendar and say that is when I'm studying that. From there, we need to get even more specific in what am I actually going to do in order to study for each module. Okay, it is not enough to just say like Monday and Tuesday are dedicated to module one. Module one covers a lot of info, and there are a lot of ways that you can study. If you're just like, oh, this is my study time, then that's kind of a black hole and it's not specific enough. Remember, specific equals success. So this kind of moves me into rule 3, which are the types of activities that I want you doing to study. And they are going to be active learning activities. So we've broken out when we're studying which module. Now, what do we do to study? We do active learning activities. So these are going to be things for me. What my preferred method was I would make flashcards, and then as I reviewed them, I would sort them into confidence levels. Next thing I would be doing would be listening to audio of my notes while I was up and walking around. For me, connecting, like moving my body to hearing the material was a huge win. For you, it might be totally different. Figure out what works for you, try different things, but it somehow needs to get you involved. Next, I would do practice questions. And lastly, I would remediate the questions I got wrong, which is super important for closing that feedback loop on what I thought I knew, but I didn't. Prior to the exam. So basically make your mistakes early so you can correct those mistakes and then you're going to actually get it right on the test. So going back to rule 2, specific equals success, I would literally look at my calendar and say, all right, Monday at 9 a.m., I'm making flashcards for module 2. And then, I have a break between classes from 2 to 3. I'm going to listen to the audio of my notes. And then later that night when I'm home, that's going to be my practice question time. And remember, I had 2 days set aside for studying module 1. So I'm going to literally, over those 2 days, schedule out the active learning activities that I'm doing to make sure I am properly studying for each module. My opinion is that the more you are using the info, the better it is going to be in my long-term memory. Combining that with starting early, remember, if you're early, you're on time, you are going to be really building up a super solid base so that when it comes time for that final exam, you know all the info and you're not cramming at the last minute. So to recap my big 3 takeaways, number 1, if you're early, you're on time, start at least 2 to 3 weeks prior to your final exam. Tip number 2, specific equals success. Break out exactly what you need to study when in order to build up to reviewing all of that content prior to your exam. This probably means you're going to have to start while other things are still going on, but the more runway you give yourself, the less you'll have to study every day, and you can do smaller chunks that all build upon each other. And lastly, active learning gets A's. So when you are scheduling out what specifically you're going to do to study, you are not just watching a video, right? You are doing practice questions, making flashcards, drawing concept maps, whatever works for your brain. This is totally going to be different for different people, but you are using that information, not simply taking it in passively. Last but not least, I will leave you with a few tips for the day before your exam. I liked to always schedule out my study to end 24 hours before taking the exam. So first of all, that gives you 1 day of wiggle room. So if things go awry, life happens, you have some cushion to absorb things you need to maybe do a little bit later. But ideally, the day before, what I would do is do a final kind of read through of all the material all together and review or remediate anything that felt sticky. A sticky area to me was like, oh, that didn't come naturally. I got a lot of those practice questions wrong. This just is not feeling like my area of expertise. So I would maybe remediate a little bit there, but importantly, I would stop cramming and stop doing practice questions. Practice questions don't really help the day before your exam. You have done the practice and remediated what you're able to in that time frame. So now move on to getting your brain ready for test day. Really, you're not going to be able to cram that much more information into your long-term memory, but you can set your brain up for success on testing day. So what does that look like? My 3 rules are: I'm getting out in the sunshine and moving my body, I'm eating protein, and I am getting rest. Those 3 things together are going to put my brain in the space it needs to be to actually have success on the exam and use all of that information that I've been studying for the past couple of weeks. If I don't do that, if I stay up all night, chugging a bunch of coffee, living off of potato chips, my brain is not going to have the fuel and the energy it needs to critically think through all of those super hard questions you're going to get on your final exam. And then it almost didn't matter that you crammed a bunch because your brain wasn't ready. So that circles us back to rule 1. If you're early, you're on time. It's more motivation to say, hey, I have got to start this process early so that I can get it done and save myself some wiggle room to really get my brain ready for game day. So there you have it. Those are my top takeaways for prepping for finals. I have used these rules all throughout nursing school, into my doctorate, taking my certification and my NP board exams. I have literally set this up the same way from day 1, and it always did the trick for me. Not that I was perfect on every single exam. Literally none of us are. So the last thing I'll leave you with is, hey, these exams do not define you. Are they really critically important? Yes. Do we need to take them very seriously and give it our all, starting early, making specific study plans, using active learning techniques? 100%. This stuff is not just vital for school, but your career as well. So yes, a lot is hanging on this, but that does not mean it defines you as a person. If you get a poor grade, that is okay. You are still valuable. You are still loved. You are still worthwhile as a human being. So many students I talk to get so wrapped up in the anxiety of needing to perform for so many exams that feel so high stakes. So I'm here to tell you that just because you might not score perfectly every time, if you trip up here or there a little bit, there is still plenty of time to get on track. You are awesome. You are going to be a great nurse. I'll end with what I end every single one of my lectures with, telling you that this stuff is not easy. In fact, nursing school, the NCLEX, and being a new nurse in general, it's one of the hardest things you're ever going to do. But it's also one of the most worthwhile. All right, nothing easy was ever worth it, and nursing is no exception. It's hard, but it's worth it. You've got this. Good luck on your finals, and we'll see you on the other side. All right, future nurses, that is a wrap. If you found this pod helpful, I'd love to continue supporting your nursing journey through nursing school, the NCLEX, continuing ed, and beyond. Archer Nursing has you covered with on-demand video lectures, high-yield question banks, live case study reviews, and so much more. We want to help you master tough concepts and make it fun. So join us over at archerreview.com. Follow us on socials at Archer Nursing for more free nursing tips and study resources. Thanks for tuning in to Pulse Check with Archer Nursing. I'm Dr. Morgan Taylor, and I'll see you back next time.